No one in the valley expected the most feared rancher to ask anyone to dance. But when the quiet young woman smiled and placed her hand in his, every conversation inside the barn stopped. Fiddles kept playing, yet no one moved. What happened after that single dance would change two lonely lives forever. Before we begin, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay until the very end to witness the beautiful ending that no one saw coming. For years, Caleb Harper had lived alone on the largest ranch in the valley. His name carried respect, but also fear. He rarely smiled, spoke only when necessary, and never wasted words. Many believed he was cold-hearted because they had only seen the stern rancher riding across endless fields with his black horse and silent determination. Few knew that years earlier he had buried both his parents, and the woman he had hoped to marry after illness claimed her life before their wedding. Since then, Caleb buried his grief beneath endless work, convincing himself that loneliness was easier than another broken heart. Whenever he rode into town, conversations became whispers. Mothers pulled children closer, and young women politely looked away. No one truly disliked him. They simply feared the quiet strength written across his face. Caleb accepted it without complaint. He believed some people were simply meant to walk through life alone. Then Emily Carter arrived. Emily had recently moved to the valley to help her elderly aunt manage a small boarding house. Unlike everyone else, she never judged people by rumors. She greeted strangers with warmth and listened before forming opinions. During her first visit to the general store, she thanked Caleb after he silently lifted a heavy sack of flour into her wagon. While others watched nervously, she smiled and wished him a pleasant afternoon. Caleb could only nod, surprised that someone had spoken to him without hesitation. Over the following weeks, their paths crossed often. Emily noticed the gentle way Caleb treated injured horses, repaired broken fences for elderly neighbors without accepting payment, and quietly left food outside struggling families' homes during harsh weather. She realized the town feared a man whose greatest strength was kindness hidden beneath silence. When harvest season ended, the valley gathered for its annual barn dance. Lanterns hung from wooden beams, fiddles echoed through the night, and laughter filled the warm autumn air. Caleb almost stayed home, convinced he did not belong among joyful crowds. Yet something urged him to attend. As music filled the barn, Emily noticed him standing alone near the doorway. Everyone else avoided him as usual. She walked over with an easy smile and greeted him like an old friend. They spoke about horses, mountain sunsets, and quiet evenings on the ranch. For the first time in years, Caleb laughed softly. Then, gathering every ounce of courage he possessed, he asked the question he never imagined saying again. "Would you honor me with this dance?" The entire barn fell silent as Emily smiled without hesitation and gently placed her hand in his. The music continued, but in that unforgettable moment, fear began giving way to something neither of them expected. Hope. The moment Caleb and Emily stepped onto the wooden dance floor, every eye in the barn followed them. Some whispered that Emily was making a mistake. Others expected the quiet rancher to embarrass himself. Instead, the opposite happened. Caleb moved carefully, almost shyly, treating Emily with gentle respect. Though his hands were rough from years of ranch work, they held hers as if they were something precious. Emily quickly realized that behind his intimidating appearance was a man who had simply forgotten how to trust happiness. As the fiddle played a slow melody, conversation gradually returned around them. Couples smiled as they watched the unlikely pair glide beneath glowing lanterns. Even the musicians seemed inspired, filling the barn with warm, joyful music. When the dance ended, Emily thanked Caleb sincerely. "I've never seen someone smile the way you just did," she whispered. Caleb lowered his eyes. "I wasn't sure I still remembered how." From that evening forward, everything slowly changed. Emily began visiting the ranch after helping her aunt. She learned to ride horses across rolling hills, helped gather fresh eggs, and laughed while feeding curious calves. Caleb discovered that silence no longer felt heavy when someone kind shared it with him. Little by little, the ranch transformed. Empty rooms echoed with conversation instead of loneliness. Fresh flowers appeared on the porch each week. Evening meals became moments of friendship instead of quiet routine. The townspeople noticed the difference too. The man they had once feared now greeted neighbors with gentle smiles. He helped repair wagons, offered work to struggling families, and opened his ranch to community gatherings. Emily never tried to change Caleb. She simply reminded him of the goodness that had always lived inside him. One afternoon, an elderly widow thanked Emily. "We judged him because we never looked beyond his face," she admitted. Emily smiled softly. The kindest hearts are often the quietest. As winter approached, Caleb finally confessed the pain he had hidden for years. He spoke about losing the woman he once loved and believing happiness had ended forever. Emily listened without interrupting. She did not offer empty promises or quick answers. She simply stayed beside him until the silence no longer hurt. That evening, Caleb realized something important. Love had not erased his past. It had simply given him the courage to live beyond it. Standing together beneath a sky full of stars, he understood that one unexpected dance had done more than bring two lonely people together. It had healed two hearts that had almost forgotten how to hope. Spring returned to the valley, covering the hills with wildflowers and fresh green grass. The ranch that had once felt lonely now overflowed with life. Children from neighboring families often visited to ride gentle horses. Travelers stopped by for warm meals, and laughter drifted across the fields almost every evening. At the center of it all stood Caleb and Emily. They never rushed their relationship. Instead, they built it the same way Caleb built strong fences, one careful piece at a time, with patience, honesty, and trust. Months after their first dance, the town announced another spring barn celebration. This time, the atmosphere felt different. Instead of whispering about Caleb, people greeted him with smiles and friendly handshakes. As the first fiddle melody filled the barn once again, Caleb looked toward Emily. "May I have this dance?" he asked with the same quiet voice. She laughed softly. "I was hoping you'd ask." They stepped onto the dance floor together, but this time no one stared in silence. Instead, the crowd smiled warmly as more couples joined them beneath the glowing lanterns. The barn that had once witnessed fear now celebrated love. Halfway through the song, Caleb gently stopped dancing. He reached into his pocket and held out a small ring. "Emily," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion in his eyes, "you taught me that strength isn't hiding from pain. It's opening your heart again. Would you make this ranch and this life our home together?" Tears filled Emily's eyes. "Yes," she whispered. The barn erupted into applause as friends surrounded them with hugs and joyful laughter. Even the toughest cowboys wiped away quiet tears. Later that summer, they married beneath a wide blue sky beside the ranch they both loved. Neighbors who had once feared Caleb now proudly stood beside him. The lonely ranch had become a place where everyone felt welcome. Years passed, and every spring barn dance became a special tradition. Caleb always saved the first dance for Emily, remembering the night when one fearless young woman had looked beyond his reputation and seen the man he truly was. The valley eventually forgot the stories about the frightening rancher. Instead, people remembered the couple whose kindness changed an entire community. Because sometimes the greatest miracles don't begin with grand speeches or dramatic battles. Sometimes they begin with a simple invitation and one unforgettable dance. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who still believes kindness can change a life. Until next time, thank you for watching.